Okay, so when you think about the patriarch Abraham from the Bible, who's the first name that pops into your head? For most of us, it's Isaac, right? The son of promise. His story is, well, it's absolutely massive. It's central to three of the world's biggest religions, and it's a story we all feel like we know inside and out. But what if I told you that isn't the whole story? Not even close. What if there's this whole other chapter to Abraham's family that often gets completely overlooked? A story about other sons who seem to, well, literally vanish from the narrative. So, how many are we talking about here? After his wife Sarah passed away, Abraham had six more sons. Yeah, you heard that right. Not one or two, but six. It's one of those details that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, and it kind of changes how you see his entire legacy. And they have names. These aren't just some vague figures. The book of Genesis lists them right out for us. Zimran, Yokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. These were real people, Abraham's direct sons. So let's dig into Abraham's other family. This is a second legacy that really kicks off after the story of Sarah. These six sons were all born to Abraham's second wife, a woman by the name of Keturah. And this creates a whole new branch on the family tree that, we just don't talk about much. But here's where their paths take a hard turn. Their destiny was nothing like Isaac's. See, Isaac was the son of promise. He inherited that sacred spiritual covenant. Keturah's sons, on the other hand, they inherited gifts and possessions, earthly wealth. You can see the split right there, can't you? One son gets the spiritual destiny while the others get the material stuff. And then they're sent away from the main story. And that leads us right to the heart of the mystery. We're calling them the Forgotten Sons because it's just such a puzzling departure. Why would the story establish this entire other family, only for them and their descendants to basically disappear from the primary narrative? It doesn't quite add up. The text itself gives us a massive clue. And it's more than a clue. It's a direct command. It says Abraham sent them away from Isaac. This wasn't just them wandering off. It was a deliberate act. And pay close attention to the direction, eastward to the east country. So let's just visualize that for a second. Their journey started in the land of promise, but their path went east, out into the vast expanses of what we now call Arabia, and maybe even beyond. They were literally pushed from the center of the story out to the edges of the known world. So this leaves us with two really big questions, doesn't it? Where did they actually go and settle down? And why does their story, which starts with the patriarch Abraham himself, seem to just fizzle out? Well, one fascinating theory offers a potential answer. It suggests that maybe they didn't vanish at all. We've just been looking in the wrong place. This is the afro-Semitic theory, and it's all about uncovering a hidden identity. Now, what do we even mean by afro-Semitic? It's pretty straightforward, actually. It's just a term used to describe people and cultures that have a combined heritage, a mix from both Africa and the Semitic peoples of the Middle East. Think of it as a bridge connecting two ancient worlds. So how does this possibly connect to Abraham's sons? Well, the theory speculates that Keturah herself might have been connected to Hagar, Abraham's Egyptian wife. Some ancient traditions even suggest they were the same person, or at the very least that Keturah was also of African descent. And if that's true, it would mean these six sons carried an Afro-Semitic heritage right from the very beginning. But here's the twist. And believe me, it is a big one. Their story doesn't actually end in the book of Genesis. You see, their disappearance from the page, that's not the end of the book. It's just the end of a chapter. It's a cliffhanger. Because they show up again. Hundreds and hundreds of years later. Not in the history books, but in prophecy. This is their prophetic reappearance. Their story wasn't about being forgotten, it was about being found again, but in a totally different context. And here it is, the big reveal. Hundreds of years after they were sent away, the prophet Isaiah writes this stunning prophecy. It talks about nations coming from the east to worship. And look at the names he mentions, all those from Sheba, who was a descendant of Keturah's son Jokshan. And it explicitly names the flocks of Midian, two of Abraham's so-called forgotten lines, named, returning from the exact direction they were sent. It's incredible. You see how it all just clicks into place? Their prophetic destiny is like a perfect mirror image of their origin story. Step 1, they return from the east. Step 2, They bring gifts of gold and frankincense, just like they left with gifts. But this time, for step 3, the gifts are for worship, and their whole purpose is to proclaim the praises of God. So the takeaway here is absolutely huge. Their story isn't a tragedy of exile at all. It's a long-game narrative of redemption. The biblical story suggests their final chapter isn't about being cast out, but about being welcomed back in worship. Their physical separation was just temporary, setting the stage for a much bigger spiritual reunion down the road. I mean, what an incredible story arc when you see it all laid out. They go from being the forgotten sons, sent away with earthly possessions, to becoming future worshipers, returning with heavenly praise. And that leaves us with a pretty powerful thought to chew on. What if being written out of one part of the story is just the setup for a much bigger role later on? What if being forgotten in history isn't the same thing as being forgotten in destiny?